I'm one of the SINS co-presidents. Most of you, if you've been to a SINS event before, you know my face and my name. Thank you all for coming out this evening. We really appreciate it. This is a presentation that we do annually with APS. This is definitely a partnership opportunity that we do with them. We're very grateful to the entire team coming out, and we're looking forward to the information tonight. This is SIN's last community meeting of the school year. Please visit us at sinsatlanta.org for more information. I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia Briscoe-Brown now, and she's going to do the full welcome, and APS is going to really take it from there. So, thank you.
I'm not sure I can welcome everybody as fully as Janet just did. We appreciate SIN's involvement and support of this cluster for decades, 40 years. So longer than probably any of us have been involved in APS. So thank you for your continued leadership and everything you do to make the Grady cluster work so well. I'm Cynthia Briscoe-Brown. I am your at-large board member, and I do want to welcome you tonight, along with my colleagues, Michelle Olympiadis, who is your District 3 board member, and Leslie Grant, who is your District 1 board member. Do we have... No, I think that's it. Thank you for coming tonight. State of the Cluster is an opportunity for our wonderful, wonderful school leaders in this community to tell you about all the fabulous things that are going on in their schools, so that you will be informed and you will be excited about supporting them. I will let the principals, they are each going to stand up and speak to you tonight, so I think I'm just going to let them introduce themselves individually. But thank you for coming. At the end, we will have a question and answer session we have here the principals, we have administrators, and we have most of the senior cabinet here as well. So if you have a question, there is likely somebody in this room who will be able to answer it. And if we can't, we will get the answer for you. Now I will want to turn this over to Yolanda Brown, who is going to take over.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Welcome, welcome. I am Yolanda Brown. I am the K-8 Associate Superintendent of Schools for the Grady, Carver, and Washington clusters. And tonight I have joined with me is Dr. Isaac Sparks, who is representing the Associate Superintendent for High School, Traditional, Non-Traditional Schools, and Single-Gender Schools, Dr. Dan Sims. So we will be tag teaming tonight for this great event. So before we get started, we're going to do really quick introductions of our dynamic leadership in the Grady cluster, and we will start at this end right here. We have Mr. Terry Harness, who's the principal at the Springdale Park Elementary School. Right behind him, hold on one second, Briscoe, we'll do you in just 1 second. We're going to introduce her and his team. Yes, ma'am, thank you. We're going to introduce some of his team members, and so this is Dr. Jennifer Toney, who is the assistant principal at Spark, who is the instructional coach at Springdale Park. And now, Madam Briscoe from Mary Lynn, the principal at Mary Lynn. Thank you for being here tonight. We have Principal Maureen Wheeler is here tonight from Hope Hill, along with her assistant principal, Adrian Booker-McCary. Sorry, Adrian. Adrian Booker-McCary from Hope Hill. So welcome, welcome. We have Ms. Audrey Sofianis, who is the principal at Morningside Elementary School, and she has her great team here in the front. We'll start with Dr. Holly Brookins, who is the program manager for the K Center for Morningside. We also have Mr. Brian Barron, who is the school-based business manager at Morningside. Mr. Paul Lister, who is the assistant principal at Morningside Main Campus. Kaplan Leverett, who's also an assistant principal at the Morningside Main Campus. So thank you all for being here. And then we have right there, we have Dr. Kevin Maxwell from Inman Middle School. And I think Dr. Maxwell has his APs here, Dr. Geraldine Harper, who's in the back. And then we also have Dr. Jason Patterson, who's also here from Inman Middle School, but he took his baby out for just a second. And last but not least, we have Dr. Betsy Bachman from the Grady High School.
principals, Ms. Hollis, Keisha Hollis.
Welcome, Ms. Hollis. Thank you for being here to get anyone out of our dynamic leadership here in the cluster. All right, well, thank you. We'll move right along. So really quickly, we're just going to go over the agenda. Of course, you can see we have a really packed agenda tonight. We want to get to the most important part of the night, which is to hear from the dynamic leaders of the Grady cluster, as well as give you an opportunity to ask your questions and get them answered tonight before you leave. After that, we're going to have a cluster data dig so that you can get an opportunity to see how all of our schools are doing in comparison to their peers across the state of Georgia and across Atlanta Public Schools. And we'll have that facilitated by Mr. Michael Lamont, who is Executive Director of Research and Accountability. Then lastly, we will have our infamous question and answer session, and you'll get a chance to ask board members, our district leaders, principals, any question that you need answered tonight. So quickly, we will jump right in. Just as a reminder, our cluster mission in the Grady cluster is to ensure that every student will graduate ready for college and career. And of course, it's aligned to our district mission. And then our cluster vision is to become a high-performing cluster where educators inspire, families engage, and students love to learn. Just very quickly, here are all of the schools within the Grady cluster. And of course, you see our flagship high school, Grady High School, our middle school, and of course, all of our elementary schools. And I just want to call your attention to our two K-8 charter schools, Centennial Academy and Condesi Old Fourth Ward, are part of the Grady cluster school family as well. The Grady cluster plan. If many of you all will remember that when we started the journey for signature programming across Atlanta Public Schools, we had a Grady cluster advisory team. We had parents, community members, all of the Grady cluster leaders participated in this cluster advisory, and it was in an attempt to develop a cluster plan that was in alignment with our district's strategic plan in 4 buckets that we will focus on and that we focus on in APS for the last 5 years. Academics, talent, resources, and culture. The Grady cluster principals and the cluster advisory came up with some key cluster priorities, and I won't read them all to you, but I'll just highlight a couple around certain buckets. We'll start with talent. We said as a Grady cluster leadership team, we're going to offer ongoing professional development for our teachers and staff that provides instructional strategies and varied teaching approaches. We also talked about providing a culture where we create a supportive culture in every school rooted in engagement of all of our stakeholders and built on the strengths of our teachers and our students and our staff. So really quickly, again, our vision is to become a high-performing cluster where educators inspire, families engage, and students love to learn. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Isaac Sparks, who will talk a little bit about our signature program initiative here in Atlanta Public Schools, and specifically Grady Cluster.
Good evening. This slide here visually represents the 3 signature programs that are represented in our high schools and single gender schools. And so, as you can see, we have the college and career, IB, and the STEM and STEAM as our signature program areas of focus. In this particular cluster, as you already know, college and career readiness is the signature program for this particular cluster, and Carver is the other school in our district that implements the college and career readiness program. So here are some of the commonalities that are common across all 3 signature programs, and I'd just like to highlight just a few as you look at them. We're happy that the CTAE pathways were able to comfortably be integrated into each of those signature programs. The focus on 21st century skills, the social emotional learning, and of course the rigorous coursework and the focus on the core subjects in preparation for college and career. When we think about what the College and Career Readiness Signature Program, what makes it unique, 2 of the very unique pieces of that is its focus on the core subjects, and not just focusing on them for the sake of focusing on them, but focusing on them from the aspect of making sure that students learn at higher levels. And in order to ensure that students learn at higher levels, there are interdisciplinary themes that are integrated into the core subjects to make sure that that learning occurs and that students have opportunities to learn at higher levels in conjunction with learning the content for each of the core courses. One of the other distinct qualities of the College and Career Readiness Signature Program is the learning and innovative skills that come with that. And they are affectionately known in the College and Career Readiness Signature Program as the 5 C's. And those learning and innovative skills are the skills that separate those students who are less prepared for college and career and more complex preparation for life from those who are more prepared. So as Grady engages their students in the core subjects, they're layering in, as the Grady cluster prepares their students for college and career readiness, they're laying in the 21st century skills, they're layering in the interdisciplinary unit, and they're also making sure that those learning and innovative skills are embedded and integrated in each and everything that they do. As a part of the cluster implementation, Grady has recently selected a program coordinator to lead that work. I think I got the title right. Did I get your title right? Program specialist. And I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Yolanda Wyndham, who will come to you and talk to you a little bit about the status of the implementation of the College and Career Signature Program. Dr. Wyndham.
Good evening. So this is year 4 of implementation of College and Career Readiness in the Grady cluster. Can anyone hear me? I am pleased to report that all of the 6 schools that are in the Grady cluster are now at phase 3, the advanced level of implementation for the College and Career Readiness program. If you take a look at the chart in the blue, which is where we'll focus most of our attention this evening when we're speaking about the implementation, if you notice that we have Carver High School listed as well as one of the schools that Dr. Sparks mentioned, it's because it also is one of the schools that's implementing the College and Career Readiness program, and I work closely with and collaborate with the program specialists in that cluster as well. The reason why we collaborate and work closely together is because we want to ensure that there is equity across the board and ensuring that that we make sure that there is an alignment and equity across the board based on the standards of service that we're presenting and providing for all of our children in each cluster. Excuse me. Our CCR program phasing for 2018-2019, still continuing to look in the advanced column, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, a little more about each bullet point there to kind of let you all know the evidence that we're looking for, which got us to the advanced stage. So the full implementation of all components of the P21 instructional framework. The 21st century themes and the 5 C's, which if you've been at any of the schools, you've seen the posters that are posted around the schools, outside of the classrooms, within the school, on the halls. The 5 C's that talk about communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, citizenship, and also the use of technology in the 3 R's. The ongoing professional learning in concentrated areas. That is, an example of that would be providing the ongoing professional learning to teachers to support gifted and accelerated learning. Also, the professional learning that takes place during PLCs, professional learning that I come to the school to provide to staff that may be new to our cluster, introducing them, giving them an introduction to college and career readiness and the P21 framework. The College and Career Signature Program phasing. As you can see, for fiscal year 2019, we are currently in phase 3. We are currently in the 4th year, phase 3, but we're moving towards fiscal year 20, I'm sorry. The fiscal year 20, still continuing in phase 3, but also we want to make sure that we look towards becoming a cluster that is applying for exemplar status. Thank you, Dr. Wyndham. I know you just started on this job, so thank you very much for coming tonight and getting that information pretty quickly. So now we will turn it over to our dynamic leaders here in the Grady cluster, and they will give you quick updates on what's happening in their schools. And I think most of these topics you'll be highly interested in. So we'll bring Dr. Betsy Bachman, and we will follow by each principal. Please just come up, Beth.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Well, like all of us, we could talk for hours on our own schools. And the cluster, we're very proud to be here, proud to be a member of the cluster. I'm going to talk a little bit about Grady. This is an overview of our demographics as it stands right now. The major change that's happened recently, of course, is the free and reduced lunch rate has gone down, and that really affects us financially. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the budget. But that's how we stand right now as far as groups, ethnic groups, demographics at Grady. So our budget update, all of us went through the budget process recently, and so these are a few things that that are being adjusted for this coming year. So our whole budget is $11,858,271. We're adding some time to our social worker, so we have a full-time social worker next year, full-time band director next year. We're providing additional funding for support for SST intervention specialists, so some more time for that. Additional support for signature program specialists, so Dr. Wyndham is the specialist for the whole cluster, but we're going to have a half-time person that's going to provide additional support for Grady students. And we have got, our major initiative is to continue to replace the Promethean boards with the Boxlight technology. Speaking of technology, our foundation has been working very, very hard to raise money to buy additional Chromebooks. That has been something that we need, is more technology at Grady. With the loss of Title I funding over the last 3 years, that's really hit us hard. And so trying to keep enough technology in the building for teaching and learning has been a challenge. So at least 250 laptops and 5 carts to house them have been purchased through the foundation to assist Grady in reaching a 1-to-1 student to laptop ratio in the near future. We have about 910 laptops that are in the school as of this week. So we are very grateful to the foundation for providing that. We are getting ready to start a project, a little project, next January on campus, where we're adding an additional building where we call them instructional suites. Every school calls them something different. The instructional suites. And so that's going to start next January. So a large building, 3 to 4 stories, is the major part, with some other renovations that come with that, infrastructure type things. But that is going to start next year, very soon. We're very, very happy about that, excited about that. So that's the total budget for all of that. Grady has an awful lot of accolades and highlights. Our students are very, very talented in multiple ways. So these are just a few of the things. Every weekend it seems like our students travel somewhere and win awards and make us very proud. So just a few, just to point out that we have just, 10 years in a row as the speech and debate state champion. We had 4 students who were named Posse Scholars for next year, so that's a 4-year commitment to these students that will attend George Washington, College of Worcester, Boston University, and Brandeis University. That's the most we've had in quite a while. I'm very, very proud of that. 5 National Merit finalists and 1 National Merit Scholar, winning lots of awards in in our student organizations. So those are things like FBLA, DECA, TSA, HOSA, those kind of organizations, and our students are becoming much more committed and much more involved in that. And those are great ways for students to meet kids from all over the state and all over the country in their pathway of interest. So we are really supporting that. We have 7 Georgia Governor's Honors Program finalists this year. Very proud of them. They'll spend about a month this summer at Berry College. 4 students accepted to the Military Academy, which is great for this year. That's the most we've had in a long time. And we jumped back into the Shooter Awards, so anybody that's interested in theater knows that that's a big deal across Georgia, and Grady has not participated in that in a few years, but we had Best Supporting Actor in a Musical, and that was in Little Mermaid. So Nathaniel Ward was nominated for that. And then we've had students that have formed a coalition, a safety coalition, that have been very, very, very active in bike safety, but also in the safety of the intersection down there with Monroe and 10th. Very proud of that group. Some of our next steps, we're going to have 2 on-site college dual enrollment programs next year. So the professors will come to Grady and offer these courses. And so we already have about 70 students a year, 72, that go off campus, but we want to be able to offer that to more students. So to have that dual enrollment opportunity at Grady is very, very important. We're focusing on mental health with a full-time mental health clinician with a partnership with Chris 180. So full-time, we'll have someone there every day to work with students and to provide training for teachers. So that's a year-long commitment that the school system, APS, is providing that. We're very, very grateful for that. Finding a space for that person is going to be the challenge, but we'll do that maybe in one of the suites. And then we're partnering with the Georgia Film Academy to offer a dramatic film writing course, which goes with the 5 C's, the signature theme. Some of our partners, Karen, who provides services for students, Project Connect. We're partnering with Georgia Tech, with the Center for Equity in Computing, our foundation, our PTO, and Georgia Tech for robotics. So lots of partners. So very proud of Grady, lots of stuff. So I'll turn it over to Inman now, Dr. Maxwell.
Thanks, Dr. Bachman. We have some Inman teachers that are here. Could you stand up to the Inman teachers that are here? They're here at 6:53. So a little bit about Inman, and like Dr. Bachman said, it's really hard to talk about Inman for 5 or 6 minutes. So I will try. You can see we have about 1,065 students this year. Next year, our enrollment projection is 1,078. By the time we get to Howard, it's close to 1,200. So as you can see, we're going to gain about 150 students here in a couple years. You see our ethnicity breakdown. We also have 40% of our students are labeled gifted. We have 10% of our students that are in special education. And we have about 5% of our students are English language learners. And so we have a diverse population. Is one of the reasons why I love being at Inman. For our budget this year, we gained some money with our budget, and so we hired a school business manager. This was important, I think, to us because we are moving to Howard, and that school business manager will focus on safety and security and focus on that Howard transition and focus on just those different things that are non-academic. And we took the lead of Morningside and the success they've had with the school business manager, and it's something that we are proud to have next year. And it's somebody, Ms. Beatles, who's in our building that knows Inman, that's been at Inman for a while. We have a full-time SST RTI 504 school specialist. We have more 504 students than students with in special education, and that person was half-time. Now they're full-time, and we want to really have more focus on some of these students that are not being successful academically or behaviorally, and so that person's full-time. We gained a full-time Latin teacher, had 2 administrative assistants because we wanted to have those 2 people be there over the summer, again, as we work on that transition. We have a science and technology skills connection position. Also, what we're able to do is, because of those connections, is instead of offering those connections classes for a semester, we're offering them 9 weeks because we're doing them every day. And so, for instance, if you're a 6th grader and you're not in music, then you can get through all the connections classes. We'll still have the year-long music, we'll still have the year-long foreign language, but it just gives our kids more things, more chances to do different connection classes. Technology, really excited about the technology. It's just one tool, but it's a strong tool, and our teachers have really valued that and worked at that. But because of Aaliyah Henderson-Rosser and the IT group, they wrote a grant where all our 6th and 7th graders were able to get laptops. Those 6th and 7th graders will have those laptops in 8th grade, and then we'll have laptops in 6th grade. We're already one-to-one because of our foundation, because we have over 500 Chromebooks, so we're one-to-one right now. But the device that they gave, and Femi's here, and Femi was a big part of this in the central office, is that it's a strong device. It's a device where there's a Microsoft suite, and it's stronger than what even a Chromebook would be. And the teachers have already done some outstanding lessons with that, and I just think it's a great tool as we look into the 5 C's and look into the 21st century college and career objectives. 50% of our teachers are, about 50% of our teachers are Google certified, teachers, admin, and staff. The entire staff is Google Applied Digital Skills certified. If you listen to a lot of businesses, a lot of companies, that kids can use social media, but they maybe can't apply some of those digital skills. And so all our staff were trained in that, and we're already working on some lessons to work with that. So some highlights. Again, like Dr. Bachman said, I wrote down some highlights that are not even in here that I thought of. We wanted to try to extend the school week instead of suspending kids, and we have less suspension, so we've had Saturday school where we extend the school week, and that's been successful. Different incentives and positive language through PBIS. 70% of our core teachers are gifted certified. We had 7 students advance to the Math Con finals in Chicago. Music students participated in workshops in Orlando. It was a great trip. They loved that. Debate team, 2nd place. Repeat APS soccer champions. We also had, because we have some teachers that are here, and I almost forgot, Academic Bowls going to Chicago. Chicago for the Nationals. Girls lacrosse won their division, baseball championship. A lot of first place in the Math Olympiad. So again, very proud of our kids. Howard Middle School. We are 441 days away from moving in. So we have the learning, we call it the Learning Village, along with the instructional suites, but we have 12 portables that our 8th graders are using right now, and I tell our 8th grade teachers all the time that they're going to go from the portables to the penthouse, because they'll be at the top floor at the Howard building. And so if you haven't driven by Dobbs, Randolph, Howell, or Irwin Road, they're doing a great job of getting that ready. It already looks beautiful, even though it's still got a ways to go, but it looks beautiful. It's going to hold all of our kids, all of our staff. As you can see, 1,375 students, and we're going to need that, I think, in the next few years. So it's something that we're excited about. We're going to start a transition team. And we got some of the parish construction that are here. If you would stand up. I just want to recognize them because they haven't once but twice actually walked around to the neighbors and talked to them and let them know what was going on, and so they're already talking to the neighbors about the school, and I just feel like they've been great to work with. Next steps, we're going to continue with the 5 C's as we focus on the college and career school. We're predicted to be a PBIS school. If we get 5 points, we would be one of the few middle schools to be a 5-star climate school in Georgia, and so that's one of our goals. The connection 6th grade, listening to the principal's coffee, listening to parents, talking to some of the 6th grade teachers, the conversation has been to try to work on more organizational skills, work on more executive functioning. And so every 6th grader is going to get a digital citizenship or skills for adolescence they're going to have like a combination in 9 weeks. So I called it study skills, but it's not just about study skills, but it's about those organizational skills and about those executive functioning skills. And so we feel like that's important. We're going to do some cognitive performance assessments, which is just working with students where teachers will give them some assignments, or I'm sorry, some quizzes that are not graded, but just kind of see where they are. Do that bi-weekly, and so we're going to work towards that. And obviously the Howard Middle School transition team will start this summer as we work towards that move in 2020. Obviously there's our partnerships. I do want to recognize our PTO and our Inman Foundation. Inman Foundation helped raise over $100,000 each the last 2 years. That was very beneficial to us. And the PTO, I always say the PTO, anything I ask, I've never heard them say no with anything that we wanted to do, and there's just a great support to this community and to Inman. So I thank them. Okay.
So great to hear about all of our schools, and it's so wonderful to get a chance to talk about Morningside. So here we are. Here's some of our stats, our wonderful team. People have asked me, why are you the Dolphins? So I had a 50-year reunion group come through the school. The answer they gave me is there's a little sculpture on the front facade of the school, and there's a tiny little picture of it, and that's a dolphin. And that's why we're the Dolphins. So there's a little unknown fact there about Morningside. You can see our projections as well, our numbers. Our budget is about almost $8.3 million, so we are going to be able to expand our arts program and have some dedicated folks for our kindergarten center. If you're not aware, we do have a second site, a kindergarten center. So we're adding some arts to that. We're adding a halftime counselor for both campuses. We're adding some hourly paras to add some enrichment and some ways so that we can restructure some things. We did a survey through our GO team, and some of the things that we heard loud and clear that parents are supportive of are the arts, as well as recess time. So we're actually going to try to restructure our lunch a little bit, have a minimum time for kids to eat, and then come up with a system where they can go outside on the nice days and not take class time, but add some recess time there. So we're very excited about that. Adding some stipends, and we are also adding Spanish at the 3rd grade level and continue on with 4th and 5th. And we all in the Grady Cluster Elementaries do Spanish at exposure level. Here's our tech update. APS gave us a great amount of Chromebooks to start out, and then our PTA and our foundation collaborated together to add to that. So we have 770 Chromebooks. We also have smart boards in every classroom. We also have a Promethean wall, which is really like a double-sized Promethean board. It's really cool. And we also have a Promethean table. And then we have teachers that have sought out grants and special projects through our PTA and foundation. So we do have some iPads in the building, as well as some other devices they've gotten through Donors Choose. We also have a news studio. WDAN, Dolphin Action News. Every day, student run. So here is our construction update. So we're not quite starting, but it's coming up. It's coming up this fall, where I think there will be some vetting of the architects. And just so we're sure everyone is aware, we are one more year at the Morningside campus, and at our K Center, and then we move into here, into this building. So we're very excited that every time I come, I'm looking at it through a different lens, because this is going to be our home for 2 years. And so that is happening. So one more year, 1920, in the current configuration, and then 2021 and 21-22, we are in this building. So you can see it's all updates, improvements, and more to come, but you can see our construction schedule and our money, about $20 million total. So some of our highlights, we are, of course, have received some awards for academics, but we're also very proud of the work that we're doing with literacy. So there's actually an article about us on the Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity website. We do have 70% of our teachers have Orton Gillingham training, and actually 100% of our teachers are either finished with another course, it's a 6-class course called the Complete Reading Series. They've either finished that, but then as our new staff come on, they've either taken 1 or 2 of those, and we work everybody through that so we all speak a common language, and we know that is a great help with our literacy. We have a little canine assistance program that we're so proud of, and one of our parent volunteers actually is getting involved in that. And so a little reading dog comes every week, and struggling readers read to the dog. And it's just a way for kids who maybe are a little apprehensive about reading aloud, encouraging them to read, and they get to interact with our little friends. We also had 2 state science fair winners. They actually won first at the district level and then first at the state level, a 4th and a 5th grader, Cameron and Zane. And there's a picture of our Dolphin Action News Daily, again, all run by students. And we are top 10 in the state for CCRPI. We're very proud of that as well, and won some awards and attendance awards. That's another thing. We really work hard to get the kids at school so that then we can do well in school. So we do get some attendance awards along the way. Where we're going next is we're working with our GO team to really define what does a 21st century classroom look like for kindergarten, for 3rd grade, for 5th grade. So that's going to be our work next year, really exploring project-based learning, design thinking, and additional STEAM elements. So we're going to be exploring that and adding more of that. We're going to continue on with our school resource officer and school business manager, a model that we adopted this year. We've added some annual events, an international night that we've already outgrown the space. It was huge. We added a Black History program, and we're adding Hispanic Heritage program. So those are annual events we'll continue to do. We're very excited about. And then our partners, and again, our PTA and our foundation is amazing as well, our GO team. But I want to highlight 2 partners on here. Atlanta Metro Cathedral is where the kindergarten center is located. And they are our landlord officially, but there's so much more than that. They've been an amazing partner with our kindergarten center and so supportive. And there's a new publication called Morningside Neighbors that if you live in the Morningside community, you may start getting in your mailboxes. And so we're taking advantage of highlighting some of the great things going on at our school through that publication. So.
Good evening, everybody. Hello. Some quick facts about Hope Hill. Our enrollment is steadily climbing, increasing. Our enrollment is steadily increasing. We are at 446, and that includes 2 pre-K classrooms. We added a 2nd pre-K this year, so we now have the only 2 pre-K programs in the Grady cluster, and we're really excited. I'm really sad that some of my, they're all my favorite, but some of my favorite little babies are leaving me to go to Mary Lynn next year because their siblings are there. But we're really excited to bring a lot of families from within our cluster to our school for pre-K. Tell me to go faster. Well, there it is. All right, if you have questions, ask. We're the Eagles. But I do want to point out that our free and reduced lunch population is actually decreasing, and we are at 78% where we were once at 92%. So we're really starting to see a shift in the neighborhood and a more integrated school community. This is our budget for the year, $4,600,000, and that does include Title I funding. With that, we were able to add an additional EIP teacher. We have full-time parapros in all of our 1st grade classrooms. We are really excited because we are adding a dance and theater program this year. And yes, we are getting someone who's very talented straight from Broadway. And our kids are really excited for these opportunities. And if you don't have it on your calendar, come see Little Mermaid. We are putting on Little Mermaid this year on May 16th. All right? Okay. May 16th, Little Mermaid. We are adding 2 behavior coaches to support teachers. This is going to be our proactive approach. We see so many of our students coming in with challenges that they bring from home, and we want to support our students in that we don't want behavior to be punitive. We want to teach and do some restorative practices, so we will hire 2 behavior coaches to do that. We have 2 part-time office clerks right now, and they've been so fantastic in filling in so many ways, so we're going to make them full-time next year. We are going to continue with OG training. 100% of our reading language arts teachers are OG trained, and we're going to continue with that next year, just like Morningside, so that we do have a common language and a common way of teaching. And we will maintain 3 core teachers at each grade level. We currently have one-to-one technology. All of our kindergarten and first grade have iPads. 2nd through 5th grade all have Chromebooks. We do have Promethean boards in every classroom, but we need to work on refreshing those. Our greatest need, believe it or not, is quality headphones. I mean, the kids just tear through them, and we need the headphones. We also have the virtual reality systems that we do the electronic field trips on, and we do have a full-time technology lab teacher to incorporate teaching. Some of our highlights, we're most proud that we had the highest growth in the district on the 2018 milestone. As a Beating the Odds school for a 3rd consecutive year. We are beginning an arts integration program next year with the addition of the dance and theater. So we're working with the Fine Arts Department to really offer a lot more opportunities for our students on site, because oftentimes they don't have the ability to take these classes after school or on the weekends. We are the first in the district to have every classroom outfitted with 21st century learning furniture and experiences. We are the first school in Georgia to implement the LU Interactive system. This is a $40,000 interactive playground, if you will, but it's academic based. And that was actually donated to us by Oshkosh Gosh. And so we're really excited. We use it quite often, and the kids absolutely love it. We have the Eagle News Network, which is a student-run morning show in our green room. We have 75 active academic mentors. And again, we did our inaugural musical Jungle Book last year, and this year's Little Mermaid. Our teachers train, parapros in all of our classrooms. Our focus area is going to be to continue to focus on early literacy, and especially we're noticing the transition between 2nd and 3rd grade, and looking to implement a school-wide consistent writing plan. Next steps, we are again focusing on a comprehensive school-wide writing plan. We're going to continue to do a lot of arts integration, and we are collaborating with the Alliance Theater with that. We are continuing OG, and we're going to maximize our master schedule. We are so blessed with a multitude of partners, and these are all these are not partners who just give money. These are partners who are actually in our building all the time. They are there volunteering, they are there working with kids, they are coming to programs. They are, MailChimp is one of our biggest sponsors, and they sponsor our 5th grade every year with over $30,000, and our kids just got back from a field trip at MailChimp. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about our partners. Thank you.
Good evening. Oh wow, the crowd has grown since I sat. Okay, before we begin, can I get the Spark teachers and parents, if you would please stand. Please stand with me. We have some of the most amazing parents and teachers in the whole wide world, and I would be remiss not to say thank you to everyone. And there's a specific person that I need to stand on. Miss Turgeon, would you be so kind, really quickly? Miss Turgeon recently was awarded with Country Music Awards Teaching Excellence Award. And she will be in Nashville next week, and I'll be going with her. So super excited about Miss Turgeon. So Springdale Park, but we also are known as what? Spark. Say one more time. Spark. There you go. We are celebrating our 10th year of existence. We are the baby elementary school of the entire Grady cluster, and we're really excited that we are able to celebrate that 10th year this year. So some of our quick facts. We currently have, that 742 is not right. We've had 2 additional kids in the last 2 days. We're at 744. We have a wonderful group of students who are incredibly diverse, and that's what makes Spark Spark. It's amazing. We're also growing in free and reduced lunch to 12 total %. And our school mascot, does anyone know who it is? It is Sparky, because you just read it. That's him right up there. That's Sparky the Dragon. Okay, we have a budget of $6,300,000, and we are so fortunate because we get to do a lot of great things with that. This year, or next year, we will be adding an additional 3rd grade homeroom teacher, an additional 4th grade homeroom teacher, an additional 5th grade homeroom teacher, bringing down class sizes in those upper grade levels to somewhere between 21 to 23 kids in a class. Maybe a little bit more with 24, but that is really excellent for us. We've been sitting around 28, 29, 30 kids per class the last couple of years. We're also going to be adding a STEM program specialist to better support our teachers in the area of math, science, and technology. We're growing, our special ed population is growing, so we want to make sure that we accommodate our students who definitely need that support. So we will be hiring a full-time special ed lead teacher. We're also able to bring on a half-time SST RTI coordinator, which again is to support the students that we know need it the most. One of our favorite things that we're going to add this year is a school transition coordinator for next year. And this is honestly because we're becoming a little bit more transient. Even though we have 744 kids currently in school, we've had almost 785 total kids come throughout our building. They're just not there all at the exact same time, right? But with that being said, we want to make sure that when kids come into Spark that they feel loved and welcome, and they are that they get to be taken through the school and get a vibe and sense and feel of comfort before they are actually placed into a homeroom teacher with someone that they just simply don't know. So we want to give them that opportunity. We're going to do that with our school transition coordinator. We're also adding additional instructional pairs to be added for our 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, for grade levels, just to support our teachers a little bit more. All right, technology-wise, we're doing pretty well. We just got 5 additional Chromebook carts delivered to our school today, so that takes us up to 450 total Chromebook carts. We're also next week getting 90 iPads, or 3 carts, that will primarily be used in our kindergarten classes. I know, if you didn't know, those are kindergarten teachers. We have 1 computer lab with 30 desktops. Next year, we're expecting to see that all of our 1st grade students will receive an iPad from the district, so we're really excited about that, bringing total devices to about 850 in the building, which is, in essence, 1-to-1. All right, some of our highlights. We are super excited about the work that we've been doing over the last few years. We've really hit balanced literacy hard. So balanced literacy framework and the workshop model from current research based on best practice for individualized student learning and achievement. We're also, if you don't know, we have 4 rules that we abide by. We say we need to be respectful, be responsible, be a good citizen, and then the last one is to be green. And we have, if you have not met Ms. McCloskey, please stand up. We have a wonderful environmental teacher. On Twitter, she's also known as @SparkSprout, so that's who that is if you've been following her. We've really put a lot of our focus this year on recycling and bringing back what makes Spark green. So we are being as green as possible this year, focus on recycling, environmental consciousness, gardening and sustainability, farm to table, and then hands-on learning. We're very excited this year that our Science Fair students had an amazing turnout. 5 students received awards from the district. 3 students placed either 1st or 2nd in the state. We're 3rd in the district for the Ruffin Reading Bowl, and then Ezra Jack Keats, we just got the names of some students who did very, very well. We're really curious about what their rankings will be. We should find that out next week, I believe. Okay, so some of the things that we've been focusing on this particular year, it's been literacy, literacy, literacy. Why? Because it's important in every content area. So one of the goals that we had this year was to increase the amount of students scoring in proficient and distinguished. We met that goal from K through 5 with every classroom and every grade level, and that was huge, and we're super, super proud of that. And we're continuing to see that level of effort in our children in terms of their reading comprehension and fluency. We have a state-of-the-art level book room, curated collections from the Teachers College at Columbia University. Each month, almost 4,500 books are in circulation throughout the Media Center. And our Media Center is going to be going over a complete and total renovation, make it more of a 21st century learning commons for our elementary students, but also adding to the collection. Some of the things that we're just really happy about, we're happy that we're increasing our attendance rate. That is a big deal for us. So 96.5% of our kids are there all the time, whether we want them there. No, I'm kidding. No, we want them all there, and they're there, and we're very happy that they are that they have less than 6 absences throughout the entire year, and our suspension rate is at 0. And the reason why I think that is very, very important, because even though some kids are like, please send me home, we're like, no, You're gonna stick it out with us, and we're very proud of that because we make sure that we keep them where we need them to be, which is in school and learning with us. And what are we going to do for next year? You know what? We're going to have school. Can we just have school? We're going to have school. We're going to continue to implement personalized learning, giving students that individualized, differentiated experience that they need in all content areas. So in essence, we are going to have school. All right? And our partnerships, let's just say this. We have some of the most amazing partners and the absolute best PTO on earth. They have raised over $200,000. Pat, can you tell me? 225. Okay, she's money. $225,000, which has been wonderful for us. It's because of our amazing PTO that we were able to increase our technology with the 5 carts we received today, with the iPads that we're going to receive next week, and obviously with the support of all of these amazing businesses. So go out and support Spark sponsors. All right.
I love how they saved the best for last. I'm Sharon Briscoe. I'm principal at Mary Lynn. It's my 4th year here. I don't like that number, that 666. I'm so glad we actually lost a student. We're at 665 today. And you can see our projection for next year, just adding a few students. And you see for yourself our ethnic and free and reduced lunch breakdown. And we are the home of the Rockets. Okay, so our budget is at $5.8 million, and we're doing something a little bit different this year. We currently are one of the few elementary schools, non-titled, that has a instructional coach. We're adding a literacy coach so that we'll have 2, one to focus on math and one to focus on literacy. And I think in the data slides you'll see why we really need to work on improving our student progress points. Our achievement remains high, but we want to focus on student progress for literacy. This year, we are hiring a new teacher to work in our technology lab. We have an excellent person who's been running the lab for 4 years. This year, we're going to actually hire a certified teacher, though, to make it more aligned with what's happening in the classrooms. We do, as does the other elementary schools, as part of the signature program standard of service, offer band and orchestra. But next year we're going to add a survey class for our 3rd graders, so they can just take a look and they'll know a little bit better what they will be interested in. This is not this is in addition to general music, and then we offer our Spanish exposure for K1-2. All right. Our technology, we are still working on our technology. We do have document cameras in every classroom. Some really helpful tools that the teachers use every day. With interactive whiteboards in every classroom, 4 to 5 desktops in every classroom. Our technology, we are really working on that. We just ordered, or put in a grant today for 2 additional Chromebook carts, so we're at about 300. So we're not quite 1 to 1, we're more like 1 to 2, and we're working on that. And 1 iPad cart, okay? All right, so some of our school highlights. We're at our CCRPI score this year was at 93.1, and we are maintaining a 4-point star climate rating. As Maureen mentioned, we are a Beat the Odds designation school for the 3rd year in a row. I was supposed to do my homework and check my numbers. I think I may have overshot what we raised at our foundation, but it's pretty close. I think we raised about $160,000, which is amazing. When I first got to Maryland, we were raising about $25,000 a year. So we have increased so much due to the generosity of our parents and the hard work of our foundation, and we are happy to spend that money. We spend it on all kinds of things, not just technology, but when we talk about the number of students experiencing high growth, that's one of our focuses. So we spend a lot of money on professional development and learning and new materials and resources for language arts. And one of our school priorities is to develop a culture of writing. So our foundation was generous and sent 3 of our teachers this past summer to the Lucy Calkins training in New York City. They spent a week there. We have 2 more teachers that are applying to go, and then hopefully we'll be able to get somebody from Lucy Calkins in to our school and provide on-site training for everybody. Okay. Okay, we have lots to celebrate. So we have students that placed in the APS Tech Fair Awards. We have teams of students that go to Future Problem Solvers. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this before, but it's where, it's kind of getting them ready for debate and thinking when they get older. It's actually an international competition. We placed third and fourth, but if we had gotten first or second, we would have moved on to the international level. This is the state. So we're going to work on that. We do have one student that advanced, who was in 5th grade, who advanced to the National Geographic GOB. It was a big deal. And then we also have a Carson Scholar. I know Audrey might not have mentioned it, but where's Audrey? She and I both were selected to attend Columbia University Teachers College Con Fellowship for Leaders, so we can get our own professional development. And I'm excited about it. It's kind of a big deal. I can say I've been to an Ivy League now, and then my media specialist selected Atlanta Public Schools Media Specialist of the Year, and she's amazing. She's been with us for quite a while. All right, so our next steps, we talked about hiring the literacy coach. But we're going to really work on increasing the number of students who are gifted endorsed at our school. If you're trying to get a job at Mary Lynn, that's one of the criteria that we look for. So if you ask for, I got one open position. I'm filling positions quick. Anybody let me know, but they got to be gifted endorsed to get in the door. And then we are working on 2 capital improvement projects. I'm looking at Alva Hardy at the side of my eye. I told him about the Sunshade project where we want to increase the shade in front of the building. And then we want to turf our playground like some of our counterparts, because when it rains, we can't go outside. Okay. And then just wanted to give a shout out to all of our partners. They work in tandem with our foundation and our PTA. They're very generous. They do dine outs for us. They provide materials, lunches, and things like that for the teachers, and good cold hard cash, which we really appreciate. So feel very fortunate to be a part of the Grady cluster and such an amazing school community.
All right, please give our dynamic principals in the Grady cluster our hand. Great job, guys. So, Michael, we're going to do a quick adjustment. So if you could just summarize really quickly, because we want to get to the question and answer portion for our community. So if you could just, in about 2 minutes, summarize the data for the Grady cluster, and then we're going to start the question and answer. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I was planning 2 hours, so 2 minutes is much easier. No, I think earlier this year I presented at SINS. Thank you, Janet, for organizing it. I think we recorded it, so if you have more questions that I can't get to, I'll stay after, but you can also look at that online. So just real quickly, I'll do a couple quick plugs. All the data that are in your handouts are also available online at apsinsights.org. So if you see something, have questions, we do an extensive job, thanks to the support of our board and our administration, of putting data out there in a transparent fashion. So you'll see at the bottom of a lot of the slides a link to the individual posts. So for example, this one, we note very carefully that it doesn't include charter school enrollment, although we know we have charter schools that end at Grady. So if you want to see how the charter school growth changed over time, and I didn't put it in the slides, you can see that on all the links. Overall, the only thing that I'll highlight then is just the profound growth at some of our schools. In CCRPI, you have schools that are in the 90th percentile in the entire state of Georgia. I mean, you can see the giant growth from the 16th percentile of the state to the 72nd percentile of the state, which is a great accomplishment. Middle schools, again, phenomenal. 93rd percentile in the state for Inman, and then Grady is in the 79th percentile in the state. So great job there. If you have any questions, like I said, I will stay after and answer them, or Janet can help you find the link to the presentation we did earlier.
Perfect timing, yeah, thank you. Right, so we're going to click through, and we're going to go to our questions, but before we do, we're going to ask board member Olympiatis if you'd like to introduce the central office team, or we can have them introduce themselves really quickly so that everyone will know who's in the room.
Yes, what up? Is it on? Can y'all hear me? Is that okay? Great. I will have them introduce themselves because I do know the majority of them, but I just met a few when I walked in. So I will start right here.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Kenya Gilliard. I'm the coordinator for college and career readiness in CTAE, and I support the Carver and Grady cluster for implementation of your signature programs for college and career readiness. So I'm very excited to be here.
Good evening. I am Tanisha Rosser, your special education coordinator for the elementary school and middle school.
All right. Good evening. I'm Katika Lovett, your executive director for special education, and it's my pleasure to be here this evening.
Hi, I'm Jerry Smith, director of capital improvements.
Good evening. I'm Alva Hardy. I'm the executive director of facility services.
Good evening. My name is John Franklin, APS Transportation.
Good evening. Kabir Mandula, the JS manager.
Greetings. I'm Jay Benicki, the district's budget director.
Good evening. Femi Aino, executive director for technology.
Good evening. Carolyn Barnett, director for charter system and school governance and cluster planning.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Marilyn Hughes, the Executive Director of the Nutrition Department.
Thank you very much. All right, so we had some, Judy, you want to field some questions from the audience, or do you want to address your specific questions that were sent to the administration?
So we did have submitted questions, but I would like to make sure that we have plenty of time for people in the audience. So we'll open up with from the audience. I'm sure some of them match what we got submitted, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Okay, ready. I'm ready. I'll win that. I'll win that, Keith. I'll get the other side, okay?
We'll start here.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tracy Austin, mother of Tyler Austin at Inman Middle School. And I have a question regarding the statistics that were presented. I noticed that every school presented the breakdown, the ethnic breakdown of schools, which I thought was great. But I think the question is, what are we doing with those numbers? And I'm curious to know how we're addressing the issues related to equity and wealth divide in our community, and if any of the schools have considered a diversity and inclusion chair within their school.
Okay, so the principals in the Grady cluster, they're here and they can speak as well. Many of them have very much focused on the diversity in our schools, and they've put many programs in place, and we'll ask some of them to stand up and talk about programs they put in place to address some equity and to make sure that they can bridge the divide between issues that occur in the school with their kids and to address the diversity. I know at Springdale Park, for example, they have I think you all had a diversity committee at one point where you worked with your community, worked with your teachers in order to address some of the concerns and to make sure that there was a program in place that could help bridge some of the gaps related to that. Briscoe has a program as well?
Yeah.
And then Ms. Wheeler.
So we don't actually have a program, this is Mary Lynn speaking, but what we do is when we analyze our data, we looked at all subgroups that include the students who are free and reduced lunch, students who are with disabilities, students, black students, and then we take a good look at how those students are achieving and how they're progressing, and those they've become a part of our priority through our GO team when we plan our strategic priorities for the year. So we talk about those kinds of things at leadership team and come up with strategies to support our students who are struggling in some areas. What happens also sometimes is that some of those same students may hit multiple criteria in the area of closing the gap, and so we can come at them from several angles.
But aside from looking at the statistics of everything, we do a lot to collaborate with all of our cluster schools. We have a Grady Cluster Music Club and kids from, Miss Turgeon and our fantastic music teacher. So we have kids from all of our elementary schools coming to Hope Hill to do Grady Cluster Music Club. Our kids go to the High Museum. We have our STEAM camp this summer. It'll be at Mary Lynn, so all of our 60 kids from each of our schools will be there this summer. We do a lot of collaboration with Inman, do a lot of collaboration with Grady, and now that Inman's coming over to Howard, we're going to be able to do more with Hope Hill and Inman. So aside from the statistics point of it, we do a lot of collaboration to make sure that all of our schools are inclusive of one another.
And I'm Leslie Brown, I'm one of the board members, and I was on the equity task force. The board just passed a policy, an equity policy, and I encourage you to read that. It is not perfect, but it is a first step. The administration now is charged with coming up with regulations, which mean how that is to look in practice. So that's a very important next step, and we need we'll have an advisory board. There's a superintendent's advisory board on that. Each board member gets to appoint someone to that. If you feel like you have a strong, passionate voice and would like to be on that, please see us afterwards or email us. But one of the things I want to point out is that I think we dance around this question all the time. We send people to schools based on where they live in APS. So as long as we have inequity in our communities, in our neighborhoods, we are going to have inequity in our schools. And we are going to have schools that have high populations of poor students who don't have all the advantages of, that many of the students in other communities have. Grady Cluster is unique in a way that has some schools that have very wealthy communities and populations next to other schools that don't. One of the things I think we need to look at, and I know that there has been one meeting initially, I think, of the Grady Cluster leadership maybe to look at, like future, how we're going to manage enrollment and numbers, and do we need to redistrict at some point and whatnot. I know that's a big topic we need to get into. But one of the things I think needs to be on the table and needs to be considered, and I will defer to the academicians in the room as to whether this is going to ruin everybody or what, but I think that we know that Hope Hill, at least in terms of the facility, the quality of the facility, and the amount of free and reduced lunch students who are in that school, and I'm not trying to knock it at all, you are doing a blowout job with that Principal Wheeler. But I think we need to understand, do we want to maintain 3 elementary schools that have very nice facilities in high SES, K-5, or when Inman is vacated after the Morningside renovation, do we want to take this space and make it a whole other elementary school, and how do we send students to this school? Or do we want to maybe look at taking 4th and 5th grade out of every single school and bringing all the children together from all 4 of those schools before they get to middle school? So do we create a 4-5 academy or something? Does that bring equity to those students sooner? So I want to throw all that out there. I've been thinking about this a lot. I know that conversation is happening or starting to happen. I'm not quite sure where the administration is in terms of forwarding that, but I want us to be thinking about that. And I don't want to dance around that question because that is, frequently, we have not come up with a brilliant new way to zone students to schools that is based on their income. I don't think that's going to happen.
I just want to piggyback that the Grady Cluster Advisory Team is having that discussion. Yes, and the long-range planning as well for the cluster. So
frequency of those meetings?
They're quarterly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we have 2 teams. It's actually the Grady Cluster Advisory, and then we've broken it out to expand and have additional members from the community and additional teachers on the committee, and that's our long-range planning, which is phase 3 of the board regulation, where we're going to address the overcrowding and the enrollment patterns in the Grady cluster. So we've had 2 meetings so far. We had one in January, and then we just had one recently in February, where we started the work of looking at reasons for overcrowding, how we could address it. We've sent out surveys to the cluster advisory and the long-range planning teams. We've gotten feedback on what we think, how we think we should move forward. We're also looking at what are some of our core principles and what do we believe about our neighborhoods in the Grady cluster. So we are on our way to working that out. And so Travis Norvell, who leads that work with the Grady Cluster Advisory and the Committee for Long-Range Planning, he is building this out so that we can get to a recommendation that's going to be due to the board March of 2020. So that work is underway. And so if you talk to your school principals, they have additional members in your GO teams. as we have expanded membership in order to include more from our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Yes. So my name is Jessica. I have a daughter in Spark and Inman, and this is a little different. So as you know, plastics are pervasive and entering the food chain. And I know we're all shocked to see how it's all over the environment. And with the turf fields, ground up tires called crumble are placed in the turf. It's a little black specks. And they enter, during storm events, they enter the environment. And I'm sure they're, become part of the food chain as well. So I wonder, what are you doing to prevent all the turf, the plastic ground up tire, from staying in the turf field and not being washed out? And I know, for example, at Grady, there's a pile of turf, synthetic turf, right next to a storm drain. So during all this rain, I'm sure that's all getting washed into the environment. And I think that we all want to do something about that plastic pollution and all that going into the environment. And we want to be green and set an example and look into how we can do better. And I know, like, by the tennis courts at the beginning of the year, there were pallets, huge pallets of crushed up tire that was spread all over the turf. And I don't see anything protecting all that turf from being washed away. And maybe you haven't thought about it, but maybe you could do something about it now and in the future.
First and foremost, the rubber that's used in the fields is not a byproduct of ground up tires. It's specially formulated to go into that type of environment, and there are lots of studies about that the manufacturers put out. I know there's a lot of questions about that in the media, and there's always a viewpoint from both sides on what is the nature of that material and what its impact is on people. All of the turf fields drain vertically. They don't drain like a regular field off to the side, and there are drainage systems underneath them, and they don't flow at a very high rate of speed. So I'm sure some of it gets out, but it shouldn't be very much. I don't know about the pallets of things that were by the tennis court at Grady High School, so.
They're pallets of the material. But what's the material? Is it plastic?
The blades of grass that are in the fabric of the material are plastic. The little rubber balls are rubber balls, they just aren't ground up tires. They're specially formulated for that by those manufacturers for those purposes.
But anyway, so there's, like at Spark on the sidewalk, there's all those little pieces of plastic there. And, every year, I bet they're replenished. So where does it go? Does it?
The turf at Spark isn't that kind of turf. Shouldn't be that kind of turf. There are different kinds.
There are little pieces of plastic, and I'm just worried that they run off with the storm events into the drain. And I don't know what you can do to make sure that space doesn't do that.
We'll look into it.
Yes, hi, I'm Jennifer Keenan. I have a 5th grader at Spark and a 6th grader at Inman. And I know that last year APS addressed the dress code and made some changes to the dress code. But I think it's important for the leaders here and the administration to hear how this dress code is still impacting the girls at Inman. My 6th grader wrote this to start a petition, and it honestly brought tears to my eyes when I read this. She says, "I have a question for you. Have you ever been told you can't wear something because it's too distracting for someone else? Well, if you haven't, it's a pretty terrible feeling. Teachers are constantly punishing students for the way they dress. At Inman, a student has missed her lunch because she was dress coded for wearing leggings. After missing her lunch, she was told to sit outside the classroom to eat her food, missing even more class time. Not only that, but her mom had to stop her day to get clothes and then drive to Inman. This was all done because her shirt did not cover her butt. Apparently, that is, quote, too distracting for young men. Think about the kind of message that this is sending to young girls. They are constantly being taught to be ashamed of their bodies and to change for men. It's 2019. Women are no longer owned by men, and they should not have to feel as though they do not belong in this school. The dress code is sexist. Boys have barely any restrictions on what they can wear. On the other hand, girls can't wear everyday clothes that have been acceptable up until now. The Inman dress code is outdated and needs to be changed. This is how the girls at Inman Middle School feel about not being able to wear leggings and to be wearing shorts that are longer than is what commonly sold at Target and what other girls at every other school wear. I feel like this issue keeps getting pushed aside and no one is really considering the real message that this is sending to the girls. This is how a 6th grade girl feels about this dress code, and many of her friends feel the same way. So I really urge the administration, just change it. Change it now. It doesn't need to be that difficult. Let the girls wear leggings. Let the girls wear shorts. It's really demoralizing to have girls get this message in today's society. Thank you.
Before we take another question, and Dr. Maxwell, I'll let you answer. I just want to recognize our board chair, Jason Estevez, has come in, and we have City Councilman Matt Westmoreland who's joined us as well. Dr. Maxwell.
Yeah, I've changed the dress code a couple of times, and I didn't know that this was an issue. And if the 6th grade girls want to come to me, they can. They can wear leggings. I mean, that's something that we okayed last year.
But the shirt has to be a certain length. I understand not allowing a midriff, but girls wear leggings all the time. I'm sure that there are several women in this room right now who are wearing leggings. And any girl who is dress coded and sent out of the classroom for wearing leggings or wearing shorts, to me, that is unacceptable.
And they shouldn't be. It's a level 1 offense, so that's a problem with the teacher that I need to know. The other thing I will let you know is that the 8th grade students, so last year I knew the dress code was kind of archaic, so I had our 8th grade ambassadors, which half of them were 8th grade students. They created the new dress code. I had our 8th grade students create it, and then they're the ones that actually announced it during the morning announcements. And so I haven't heard of any issues. We had one issue because that we changed, and I haven't heard any issues. So if those 6th grade girls want to come to me,
Why don't you do a survey to see how the students feel about the dress code?
I just want to talk to the 6th grade girls that have the petition. My door's always open, and I'll talk to them anytime about it. And we have 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade ambassadors, and they can all get together. And if they feel like the dress code should change, we can talk about it, and we can change it. I want to talk about academics. I don't want to talk about this dress code, and I don't want to have girls feel that way. I want to focus on the academics, and so I'll get student input, and I will work towards something different with student input.
We have a question here.
Okay. You asked for a question about academics. My name is Kate Buhat. I'm a mom of David Baker, who's a 6th grader. And I am lucky because my child is mostly in gifted and talented classes. However, it is frequently the case that, after getting off the bus at 5 o'clock, he then has at least, 2 hours of homework, much of which is online, and much of which is kind of rote exercises that frankly drive him crazy. So he's asking me, Mom, why do I have to do all of this? We get into the conversation like, just do enough for A-, go to sleep. So I just wanted to bring it up. I think I brought it up with a counselor. I don't know if but I just wonder if schools have policies talking about gifted kids and how much time is really needed to hammer into their heads the repetitive exercises so they excel even more. Thank you.
We're going to connect that parent with APS folks afterwards to make sure that that's addressed.
Hi, this is the first boy. I have many issues, but I have one main issue. I'm a parent of a student at Inman. We came from a different school system. I didn't think it would be different, but it is. So we had to adapt and adjust again. So we come to Inman, and the profanity is beyond my household. Then she come to school, and then they tell me, administrators or somebody that works at the school tells me that they don't have time to address the profanity in the school, and if they did, they won't have time for instructional teaching. Well, I have a problem with my child's academic because now the profanity is more of an issue than the schoolwork. Like, who cursing this day? Who cursing this hour? Who's saying this bad word? Now, who's focusing on instruction? Now, I understand that the teachers are worried about instruction, no teaching, but the children, my daughter, is not focused as I would like her to be, had she would be in an environment that would provide her to focus more on instruction than the peers and the peer pressure of all this profanity. I've never heard it. This profanity in this school Inman is beyond out of control. And they need to have something, incentive, something to let the children know when you come to school, we don't do this. We don't have to do this. It's a way. I don't curse in my house. We don't curse. She hear it, but it's something that they need to do at the school.
Okay, thank you for your concern. We're going to connect you with Dr. Maxwell after the meeting, but I do want to make a couple of points to you about your concern. Just know that we have high expectations at Inman Middle School and across Atlanta Public Schools based on our student code of conduct. And so the APs at Inman and Dr. Maxwell work within the confines of the student handbook. But I think Dr. Maxwell spoke earlier about Inman being a PBIS school, which is a positive behavior support school where you reinforce great behavior by rewarding the students. And that's by focusing on those key rules, whether it be responsible, be respectful, whatever Dr. Maxwell and his team has come up with for that. So that PBIS helps to address a lot of those pieces that you discussed about how kids communicate with each other. And PBIS is positive behavior support, but it's positive behavior intervention system.
Are the parents involved in this? Or just a student?
This is typically a school-based initiative where the school leaders, the school teachers, and sometimes in middle school kids get together and they lay out what type of behaviors are major or minor, and they determine how they're going to address them. And then based on that, they develop incentives where kids get recognized for how well they implement those key rules and behaviors that the school has come up with. And so PBIS, Inman, Dr. Maxwell, he is really, really serious about that. And he's focusing on that as a part of his next steps for Inman for next year and for years to come. Also, in addition to PBIS for Inman, we also have our SEL focus and initiative here in Atlanta Public Schools. So each day across every school in the district, kids work on those SEL competencies where they're more self-aware, where they understand how to communicate with each other. And that is a part of the fabric of what we're trying to do for all kids across Atlanta Public Schools. So at the end, though, I will connect you with the principal and the APs, and we can talk more specifically. But just know that our student code of conduct, along with all of our positive supports, are part of how we're trying to bridge the gap on how kids communicate so that teachers can stay focused.
Thanks, Ms. Brown. Can I see who all has questions left? Because I know that we're on okay, so we just have 2 left? Okay, 3? Okay, I'm sorry, Frederick. Here we go.
Thank you all so much for doing this today and for all being here to answer our questions. I'm Amy Bruckman. I have a son at Inman Middle. My question is about project-based learning. I believe in project-based learning. I know why it's important. Now, please, if you could explain to me the rules about how often teachers need to do projects. My son's perception, which I may or may not be right, is that the teachers are required to do a certain number of projects. And a project done well is a wonderful thing. I have a PhD in education. But a project done badly, some of these teachers seem to be, oops, I haven't done a project yet, and slapping together a relatively trivial assignment and counting it for a project grade. And I wonder if anyone is doing assessment of the quality of projects, and if anyone has rethought whether projects need to be required, because it's better not to do it than to do it badly. Better to do it well, but better not to do it than to do it badly.
We have a response for project-based learning. Projects.
What is the school? I'm sorry. What is
Inman.
Yeah, I mean, we could connect after, but I think all of APS, we have these units of study, and we have, whether it's social studies, science, English, you have these units of study, and in those units that you have projects that you need to complete. And I believe in project-based learning. I think project-based learning can lead to where it's interdisciplinary, where you can work on math, science, social studies, and English. But I agree that if you do a project, you have to do it at it has to be at 100%. And we can talk afterwards if you want to, where you can give me some specifics.
Okay. So it's not being measured? She asked whether you're doing anything to see if they're good projects or not.
Yes, it's measured. We can talk about that, but it's measured, and there's a rubric for every project. So it's rubric based, and so those projects, and so there's different criteria for the rubric. So yes, we do look at the quality of the project.
Is there a required quantity, what she was asking?
Yeah, it's standard based, but again, like if you have, for instance, if a social studies class has 6 units throughout the year, that there'll be a project for each unit. So say there'll be approximately 6 units. I mean, we have 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I mean, we're talking about 4, 8. We have about 12 subjects in grade level. So I don't know the exact amount, but I do know that your teachers are going to talk about a certain unit, and then that unit will have embedded a project.
Come back here, Frederick. Frederick. Okay, we'll get Frederick and then we'll come back.
Hello, I'm Frederick Bien. I have a child at Inman and one at Grady. And I want to thank the principal for taking care of us tonight by informing us. We really love the school. We've been clients for over 10 years now, I would say. I have 2 questions. One has to do with the students in special ed. So I have one student in special ed here at Inman, and we had a wonderful meeting, first time in 10 years, it happened this year, where Ms. Stacy organized the parents who had kids in special ed, who wanted to meet each other, to finally meet each other. At each of the schools, you have about 10% kids in special ed, so for Inman it means about 100 kids. Grady is probably more than 100. And I want to make everyone aware that these meetings are possible, number one, because for many years I've asked, can we meet the other parents who have kids in special ed? And I could not. I could not even know how many parents were kids were in the special ed class with my son, unless my son told me, of course, which in elementary school was not always an accurate count. But anyway, we would like to request to encourage those meetings. They were very helpful to see the diversity of needs that the school has to fulfill. And so I hope there will be a second meeting sometime. And then the second comment or question I had is, we're in the GO team. I happen to be a candidate for the GO team at Grady this year, but I still have not received my code to vote. And I'm not the only one in this. And I've requested several times from APS. I received 2 callbacks, but I still haven't had the code. And I'm not the only parent in this situation, I know. So I would like to request if we can make the election a little more transparent. In particular, publish the results. Because I think, we're trying to be a transparent district, so why not publish how many people received how many votes, and how many people voted altogether? So you're trying to increase the number of people who vote, be a little more open about that.